The youth unemployment crisis in Kenya. It's getting out of hand. My brother Alvin, how are you doing?
I'm doing
once
great.
Again. Yes, karibu sana. Now, for those who do not know you,
Yes.
tell us what your job entails up with Generation Kenya. And what is this Generation Kenya about? Is it about Gen Z, Gen X, millennials? What's going on?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. My name is Alvin Mukabwa. I'm the Chief Operations Officer with Generation Kenya. Generation is a local NGO whose mission is to transform education to employment systems to be able to prepare, place and support people into life-changing career opportunities that will otherwise be inaccessible.
Good stuff.
And the idea is that how do we ensure that we are addressing the youth of unemployment, the problem of youth unemployment, in a more strategic way? And I think I can start by how we were founded. Just give an idea.
Just give us like a background before we talk about unemployment in Kenya.
Yeah, so Generation was founded out of a study that was done by McKinsey. They did a study in about 70 countries, and they had very interesting findings because on one side, more than 40% of the employers they spoke to were saying that we can't get good entry-level talent, while on the other side, young people are saying there are no jobs. And so we were asking ourselves, what exactly is the mismatch?
Yeah, where's the disconnect?
Exactly. Then we realized that the disconnect is in skilling.
Right.
And that's how we developed our 7-step methodology. And ideally what we do is that we are not a training institution, we are a job matching institution.
Okay.
So that means that we start engaging with the employer first to identify two things. One, how many jobs do they have? Two, what are the pain points that they are facing?
Okay.
Now, with that information, we now come back and, develop a curriculum, recruit the type of learner who can, consume that curriculum, then do a bit of wraparound, then connect them back to the job that we had already identified.
Good stuff. You guys are adding value, Manze. That's really legit. Now, the unemployment crisis in the 254.
Yes.
Apparently, things are getting out of hand.
Exactly.
What I'm reading over here, according to the United Nations, they say global youth unemployment rate is at 12.8%. That's globally.
Yes.
A situation that is it's not expected to change substantially in the near future. Things are looking bad for young guys. However, from a Kenyan context, they say Kenya has the largest youth unemployment rates in the region, in the East African region, despite its gross domestic product growing by 5.6% last year. The continued emphasis on economic growth, despite high unemployment numbers, has left many young guys wondering where all the wealth is going. So apparently, if you even listen to our president and say, things are looking good, economy sasa inaanza to make sense, but guys are wondering, where's the wealth going to? Where are all these other opportunities? Right? So where exactly is the growth if it's not trickling down to those who need it most? How can we make sense of all these things? Because mavijana wanasema, you guys careful. Don't believe those numbers. We ain't got jobs. So on one hand, apparently this year, the economy is expected to grow by 5.6%. However, there's no trickle-down effect. What's going on?
One, if we look at the Kenya's unemployment rate, it's at about 5.7%. But that is the general unemployment. But if you look at that group of between 15 to 35, and then narrow down to the group of between 18 to 24, then we have the highest level of unemployment of close to 19%.
Highest in terms of what?
In terms of the unemployment rate.
All right.
Yes.
In the region, I'm just...
In Kenya, we are looking at Kenya. And that basically speaks to the fact that we are not creating as many employment opportunities as the number of young people that are coming out of our education institutions. And so that means that traditional employment opportunities are now limited. But beyond that, we also have the other, it's a multifaceted issue. On one hand, there is a problem of unemployment, but also on the other hand, there is the problem of skilling. Whereby, yes, we do have young people who are unemployed, but do they have the right skills that the industry is looking for? Because there's that mismatch between what we are training in schools, be it in universities or TVETs, and what the employers are looking for.
From your research, from your survey out there, what are some of the most on-demand skills right now in the job market?
And so if you look at the number of sectors that I can start with, the sectors that we focus on at Generation. One of the biggest sector that we work in is the textile and apparel industry. It's actually one of the second largest employing sector in Kenya. And you realize that this sector has the potential to actually, employ millions of young people if well supported and if we put in the right structures because of the arrangement that we have, the AGOA agreement, because Kenya is actually the biggest exporter within this region under AGOA.
Okay.
And so we support young people in this industry. We train them with sewing machine operators. Then we place them with EPZs, be it in Mombasa, Kilifi. We are also making entryways in Nairobi. The other sector that we are in is the customer service and sales industry. Now, the customer service and sales industry was one of the most affected during COVID, because literally everything shut down, be it hospitality, be it retail, they were fully locked down. But we are seeing that things are now picking up, especially around hospitality and retail. And so there's a bit of hope in that sector. But also one of the other most fastest growing and emerging sector is the global business service sector, which in Kenya we mostly refer to it as the BPO sector.
Yeah.
It has the potential to employ so many young people.
Yeah.
And so these are sectors that we are in, and we see that they have a lot of potential for growth.
Yeah.
But there's also the bigger question of job mobility. If we are not creating enough opportunities locally, how do we ensure that we get these young people that we have in this country to have the right skills so that they tap into other opportunities beyond our borders? And that's why we talk about the gig economy. How do we, fast track the question of remote work? How do we fast track the question of freelancing, creative economies and all that? So there are many solutions to this, and it's just a question of where do we put our efforts to make sure that we are supporting these young people. Because if you look at traditional employment, it's somehow limited to cities. If we talk about retail and hospitality and such sectors, you'll find them in the cities, be it Nairobi, Mombasa, Eldoret, Nakuru. But what happens to that young person who's in the village, somewhere in West Pokot and all that? So that means we have to find a different solution for them that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to move and come to the city. Yeah, so there are a lot of things that we are trying to do to make sure that we are addressing this problem.
It's interesting when you mention that. I usually scare our president, I'm a certain government officials, when they go to those far-flung areas, they talk about opportunities in the digital space.
Yes.
Does that even make sense for those guys? Do they have enough internet infrastructure? Is that a viable solution for them?
It is with the right investment. Yeah, because if you look at people who are... Because these guys, let's look at the barriers that they are facing. One, the first barrier is, if you're talking about digital skills and all that, there's the question of digital literacy. If someone has not done any type of digital literacy from their primary to their secondary schooling, you need to start them with the foundations. Beyond the foundations, they need the right infrastructure. Do they have access to a computer? Do they have access to internet? And by that we mean stable internet. Do they have electricity? But also, what is the support infrastructure? Because we get a lot of gig work from the global north, from the US. And their time zones are different. That means that it's now that they're waking up, and it's now that we are going to bed. And so if you have these guys reliant on maybe institutional hubs and all that, and that are closed at 5, so how are they supposed to support this economy? So there's a bit of infrastructure that we have to put in place, because if we get it right, trust me, it's a game changer.
Okay. Steph?
Yeah, so last year we saw over 1,000 plus people lose their jobs from companies shutting down and relocating. And now you've had students who've left Form 4 and they don't have anywhere to go because they don't have funds to go to university. And you also have university graduates who, many of them, and they don't have jobs. So because now you've got 3 groups of people. You've got like the trained ones, the certified ones, and the unskilled, untrained. How are all of them meant to compete for jobs in Kenya?
Yeah, that's a very difficult task that, players within this sector, but also government have to face. If you look at the recently released KCSE results, I think we had close to 1 million young people who sat for those exams. And out of that, if we round off, only about 250 qualified to go to university. And so that means there is an entire close to 750 young people who either need to go into TVET or find an alternative pathway to skilling that eventually gets them into jobs. So we need to have that conversation in terms of even for the ones who've gone into university. And right now, I'm very glad that recently the cabinet approved this dual training policy, because it tries to address the challenge that we are facing, especially for the ones who are skilled. Because sometimes we have that assumption that guys who are coming out of school are skilled, yet they are not really skilled with the skills that employers are looking for. And so this policy is meant to address that gap. Where we are saying is that, can we have more than 50 to 70% of the content that these guys are doing in school being competency-based? That means that it mimics what the industry needs. And that means that there will be a better transition into employment. Because right now, you find that, yes, we do have guys who've left campus, but then when they go into an employment situation, they still need to be retrained. And right now, employers are focusing on their on their baseline. How do they make more money? They're not willing to invest a lot in training and all that. And so if we get it right with what the government is trying to do around dual training, I think at least that will change. But also we need to make sure that we are tapping into these opportunities of remote work and then the gig economy, because we cannot rely on all this number going into traditional employment, yet we know what is happening in the country. And there are different things that the government is doing around the BPO space. There are different things that the government is doing through the Konza Metropolis, the G2 hubs that they are setting up across the country. If we get that infrastructure right and we get the skilling right, I think there's a way that we could tap into, opportunities in the gig economy for these young people who cannot go into traditional employment.
I like that you've mentioned that education part, because there's a lot of big people out there, HR manager, CEO, who says most of what we're being taught in universities is irrelevant right now, because they don't go together. You're being taught things that were working in 2007, 2008, but we're in 2025. So they have the job of removing everything that you learned to retrain you. And now that you mention that, should the education system completely change to be able to capture what is needed right now, to be able to remove properly skilled people?
Yes. And I mean, I hope I don't get, into trouble with some of these examples that I'll be giving. We were at an institution that was doing both, it's a TVET, that was doing both ICT programs and textile programs. And one of the things that they were telling us is that the textile program that they are using now was created 30 years ago. And the needs that we had as a country 30 years ago are not the same needs that we have now.
True.
If you look at the ICT programs that we did, those computer packages that we did in school, those are some of the things that are being taught. Are we embedding AI into our programming? Are we updating those curricula? Because the other challenge is that even if you trained them, the assessment is done based on the curriculum that is in place. So that means that teachers have to stick to that. And so I think there's a huge investment that has to be put into that curriculum to ensure that private sector is now being brought into the picture, to ensure that they are supporting with that curriculum development and it aligns with their needs. Otherwise, if there is that continuous mismatch, then there is one waste of resources, because all the years that you've spent in school become useless. But if we start doing that transition immediately, and there is that continuous engagement with private sector, it means that these guys even start transitioning into employment immediately. If you look at what we do in our textile program in Mombasa, we actually do our trainings within the factory. So that means that in one section of the factory, you're doing training, yet you know where you're going. And we are mimicking what you'll be going to do. For instance, if you want to prepare a garment and you need to prepare this shirt and all that, you're doing that in training. By the time you get into production, it's just a plug and play. As opposed to someone who's so green, yes, they have exposure, but they don't have the hands-on experience.
Actual skills.
Exactly. They lack the actual skills.
You mentioned the private sector, so I just wanted to know, what role do you think this private sectors, maybe international organizations, need to play in this?
One, I think, is they have to be willing to put in the right investment. Because if you look at some of the institutions that we have within this country, they may not have the right infrastructure in terms of training. If you look at the program that we run, I'll still give an example of the program that we run at the cost. If we were to do everything on our own, it will cost us about $1,000 to just train one person. But the private sector has come and told us we need talent, and we know you don't have the right investment. They have given us high quality machines, training materials, space, utilities, and all that. And what that does is that it subsidizes the cost of training and makes it affordable for young people. And by the time we are coming in, it's easier. And secondly, it eliminates that mismatch between what they are looking for. Because right now, if I did training with an outdated machine, then someone went into the factory and they find a machine that they have never seen. It means that the employer has to still, do a bit of investment. But also, the other thing is that the private sector also we have to find a way in which the private sector works with government institutions, be it TVETs, because right now, most of the TVETs, if you ask them, people who graduate from your institutions, where do they go to? They don't have that information, and it's very critical information. How do we have these TVETs make partnerships with, whether it's the private sector? We have CAM, we have KEPSA, we have bodies that represent to ensure that there is that continuous flow of information. Do they actually give feedback to these universities? These are the guys you're giving us. These are the challenges that we are facing, because this information is relevant for curriculum development. How we do our curriculum development is that we first do an activity mapping to understand who are the employers and the roles. Then we do a bit of job shadowing. Like right now, if you were training people to do what you guys are doing in media, we will actually be having someone here.
At least learning from us.
Exactly. Seeing what you guys are doing. We are getting everything, so that by the time these guys come, they have that hands-on experience. We can't do that without a partnership with you as private sector.
Let me ask you, Alvin. First of all, what you guys are doing is legit. However, what is the role of the county governments? Because, some people would imagine that devolution would sort out all these issues of unemployment, especially within those counties, far areas where there's so many youth. But, it's interesting. I was having a discussion with my friends over here, and we figured that it was actually on the news, and they're talking about how quite a number of county governments use their monies, they don't even use any amount on the budget for developmental purposes. So what role should county governments play when it comes to solving the unemployment crisis? And if at all they're not, why do you think they're not? Why do you think they aren't doing this? Because many people would imagine that our county governments would at least sort us out, but clearly from the data, they're not doing their job.
They're not doing, They're
not providing opportunities for, they're not reviving industries. What's the disconnect?
One, if, most of our folks, when they went to school, I think government then was the biggest employer. They were sure that once you leave school, you'll go and work in government. Right now, if you look at the population that we have and all that, county government in itself can only employ as many as they can. And so the question becomes, what's their role in terms of supporting? Their biggest role is on policy, both at national government and county government. How do you ensure that you're creating the right policies to attract private sector investment? Because if you make it very difficult for companies to set up within your counties, then how will they be able to create employment? But two, ensure that you're also putting in the right infrastructure. If you look at the national structure of TVETs, national polytechnics are under national government, but these other bodies are under county government. The training, the vocational institutions. If these vocational institutions are well equipped, well facilitated, then it becomes easier for young people to actually go to these institutions and be able to get the knowledge that they want to get into employment. And then there's a bit of branding and visibility that has to be done around TVET. Sometimes we have this perception about TVET, but forgetting that actually TVET is the solution, because it's more of skill-based as opposed to theory. So there's a lot that counties can do, and I can give an example of Nakuru County, which has been very supportive of the work that we do. They have actually gone ahead and given us access to the hubs that they have built, and they have facilitated those hubs with IT infrastructure, internet, and all that. And what we do is that we come in with the software, the curriculum, support young people, train them, and then transition them into employment. And this is a very good, proof of concept in terms of how counties can actually be able to support. And it's not just Nakuru County. There are other counties that are supporting, but I think to some extent they're also limited by the resources that they also get, be it from national government, but also from the revenues that they raise.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, dude, I don't want to sound like I'm marketing your organization, but I think you guys are doing a good job.
Yeah.
What can young people out there do to take charge of their future while they live in this very challenging environment of ours called Kenya?
Yeah.
What are some of the practical things that they do? Because the reason I'm asking you this is because, personally, I've realized that if you're going to take this country to the next level, unfortunately, we can't keep relying on government so much.
Yes.
But I believe in personal excellence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she talks about this a lot. At some point, you're going to have to dig deep and ask yourself, with all the resources that I have around me, the internet, listening to shows like this, conversations like this, but just to add on this, what can young people do? Because the fact is, things are bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm excited about your program.
Yeah.
But just generally, bro, what are some of the practical things that we can do as a generation while we navigate this very crazy environment of ours called Kenya?
Yeah. One is to acknowledge that it's not easy being a young person right now in this country, because the challenges that young people are facing now, they're just unprecedented. Yeah. And so as a young person, what that means is that for every opportunity that is out there, there are a million other people who are chasing after that same opportunity. And so there has to be that self-drive and initiative that you have as an individual, to be able to push and have that drive and then hustle in you to actually go for these opportunities.
Yeah.
Beyond that, one of the things that we've realized, especially when we engage with employers, if you get a job opportunity, you need technical skills. Yeah. But the biggest things that employers are looking for is not the technical skills.
Okay.
It's the soft skills, the behavioral skills, and the professional skills.
Right.
The technical skills will get you the job, but what will keep you in the job? The growth mindset, the professionalism, how you carry yourself and all that. Those are very critical things that young people need to address. Don't just focusing on getting the critical skills. Those other skills, the persistence, keeping time. Those are things that are very critical to employers, and they make a difference.
Yeah.
The other thing that I will say is also invest in yourself, because opportunity meets preparedness.
True.
You can't just sit and wait that, I'll start preparing when the opportunity comes.
Yeah.
That won't work. Then consistency. Yeah, it's sometimes as young people, and this is something that we see with our brothers and sisters, there's that lack of consistency where you're touching many things. You're doing this today, you're doing that today. If you just focus on one thing and be the best in that thing and be disciplined. Yeah, because the difference between successful people and guys who are not, it just comes down to discipline.
Yeah.
How are you disciplined about what you're doing? But then I'll also lastly encourage them, please go and check out the work that we're doing. Because we do have a lot of opportunities. Like next week, we do have a class that is starting for the digital customer service program. And they can take advantage of those opportunities and be able to engage and do something with their lives.
Yeah, I like that, dude. You guys, you're definitely helping the country tackle this issue, because it's a menace.
Yeah.
It's a menace. The other day, when you listen to the former deputy president talking about, sisi kama serikali, we are just admitting that we don't have jobs for you guys.
Straight up,
you get. How can no government is resorting on,
shipping people?
Exporting labor. But is that something that you support? Is that something good? You think it's at least a solution, at least for the short term? Is this something young guys should pursue? Go and work in all these Middle East countries or whatever?
It is a very contagious issue, and I think it's how we approach it. Because if you look at Africa, and then particularly Kenya, what is the competitive advantage that we have as a country? We are not contributing to global tech. We are not exporting minerals and all that. But we have rich labor. And so how do we take advantage of that rich labor? And there are many forms of doing this. When we talk about job mobility, it can either be through that migration that is happening across different countries, but how do you also build skills in this country that attract these guys? Because right now, if you look at the BPO sector, for instance, where countries like India, Philippines, and the likes are leading, we have a lot of advantages as compared to those countries. Our level of English is very high. Our time zone is very friendly. So that means that if we put in the right investment in terms of skills, those guys are willing to come and set up here. And so it's just how do we change the narrative from what needs to be done to make sure that we are taking advantage of the resource that we have, which is talent, as opposed to where is the talent going to. Because if we get it right on addressing the issue of quality of talent, productivity and all that, if you look at the textile industry, for instance, our average productivity is at between 60-70%. Countries like Vietnam are doing 95%. Efficiency and productivity. That means that if we changed our skilling here and people see that we are hitting the 90-95, then it's not a question of where are the jobs. It's just the investors coming in and setting up. So it's if we get the foundations right, then we'll address the problem from the core.
So we're now in a tech revolutions era at the moment, and there's people who are like, okay, I finished school, I don't have a job, and now you're telling me AI is here. Is it going to steal my job? But my main question is there a way that people can use it to elevate themselves from where they currently don't have a job to creating jobs for others using AI?
Definitely.
And are there infrastructures or places that can teach them to do this stuff?
Yes, we do have a lot of programs. One, on a personal level, I believe that AI will not replace people's jobs. It will only replace people who don't know how to use AI. And so that means that if you know how to use AI, you'll most likely keep your job. And so it's a question of how do we make sure that we are, one, AI proofing the skills that we are training these young people, but also making it accessible. Because before even that AI gets to a point whereby we are saying that some jobs become automated, right now there's a lot of machine learning that is happening. And that machine learning creates employment opportunities. There's data annotation. There are so many things that are happening. And it's just a question of where do we want to contribute? Is it at the basic level of, these micro tasks in terms of AI, or do we want to go for the big things when it comes to AI in terms of supporting and then creating technology and all that? So I believe that we are in a good place as a country with regards to issues of AI, but one of the biggest challenges that we are facing is digital literacy. If we can support young people and give them that digital literacy, teach them about AI, the possibilities that AI can create in terms of creating employment, because there is employment that AI can create, but there's also efficiencies that AI can create. For instance, in your job, there are things that you can use ChatGPT to, to fast track, make the quality and all that. If we give young people this information, they can take advantage of it.
And then for the employers listening in, and they're thinking, okay, this sounds really good. We really want to help, but we don't have the funds to be able to start hiring people into the company. Is there a way that they can open up for people to come in and learn skills without, messing too much with their budgets?
Definitely, because that's one of the things that the government is actually trying to do, where they want to make sure that any program that is being run within TVET, there is that access to that dual training. That means that a lot of the training is actually happening at the workplaces. And so that means that a lot of employers and private sector have actually need to open up their spaces so that young people can come and do apprenticeship, get to learn and see the type of work that is happening, so that eventually it becomes easier to either transition into the same employer or even any other employer. So in this problem of youth unemployment, private sector has a very big role to play. One providing employment, but also creating that infrastructure for dual training to be effective.
I have one famous quote that Kenyans normally say: "You should know people," and I think everybody's familiar with that quote. Just the other week, we had a lady who was speaking about there's a girl who was eaten by a crocodile, and when she was at the family's funeral, she was saying it's because of menstruation that this girl was actually chewed up by the crocodile. Such people definitely didn't go through the right systems to get the jobs that they are, because with that kind of daftness in Kenya, it just shows a lot of ignorance. How are you guys going to be able to fight this corruption? Because people want to hire people on the basis of not on merit anymore, but it's about who you know and who's going to get into the job. How are you going to handle that? Because your system may be working well. You're ensuring that you're training guys for the right skills. When this person goes out there, he just doesn't know people.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that we've actually addressed within our program. And then just to give you a bit of insight into the programs that we run, our focus is on Form 4 and below. You know, of course, there are guys who come into our programs with degrees and all that. But our focus is on people who don't have that opportunity. And so that means we have programs that, you need to have a Form 4 certificate. We have a programs where even if you're a Class 4 dropout, you can still go for the program. And why are we doing this? We recruit young people based on intrinsics and motivation and not academic qualifications. And with data, we've been able to prove that a young person without a degree can actually perform at the same level or even better than someone who has a degree.
Is that right?
If they are given the right skills. And so it's just a question of changing the narrative, because why are you employing these young people? You're employing them because of the skills they bring on board, not because of their last name or who they are connected to. So it's just changing that entire ecosystem. And these are conversations that we have with employers. How do you track your return on investment when you talk about recruitment? This young person that we gave you, what is the value that they are bringing on board? And these are conversations that we need to have openly while we're onboarding employer partners, that if young people are supported with the right skills, all these other things don't really matter.
Yeah, I like that.
So let me just highlight on a bit of a sensitive topic on this side. So you've taken your students to be trained at a facility, and then you find out that they're being mistreated. How would you go about handling that without cutting off the partnership that you have with them?
One is that we have a very intensive onboarding for all the employers that we work with, because we have a gender and decent work mainstreaming policy that guides the work that we do. Before we onboard any employer, we have to make sure that they tick the boxes. When we talk about decency of work, are you giving these young people contracts? Do the contracts specify, their leave days and all those things? And so workforce safeguarding is very important. And we make sure that we get it right from the point when we're engaging with an employer. That doesn't mean that there are no incidences that happen at work. What we've done is that we don't just stop working with our young people once they graduate. We have a robust alumni and mentorship structure that continues to support these young people beyond employment. And what we've done is that, as an organization, we've actually gone a step further. Out of the 30,000 young people that we've trained in Kenya, all of them have an access to a toll-free line where they can either report any problem that they face at an employer's premise, and if they have any issue that needs counseling and all that, they can actually call free of charge, and they can be supported. But we are lucky that we have funders, like one of our funders called IDH, who are very particular about decent work, and they have gone ahead and supported us to understand, how do we support these young people, how do you sensitize, especially if you're bringing in girls who are at 18, 19 years, how do you sensitize them on their rights? How do you ensure that they know that when you go into a workplace and someone asks for this type of favor, it's wrong? How do you report it? And then how do you also train the employers and the supervisors on how to be professional with these young people that you're giving them? So it's a continuous kind of approach that we use.
So, Alvin, I see we're running out of time, bro.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a really good job. So in case somebody wants to further your story, so I like what you're doing.
Yes.
What's your contact information?
So one, we do have, you can go to our website, www.generation.org, where you can be able to get the details of Generation. And then we do have our contact numbers that have been put out on the website, where you're able to actually reach out and call us. Let me see if I can just read out the number in a minute.
All right, guys, remember you can stream live on www.spicefm.co.ke. Remember, we are hanging out with a guy who's got an amazing organization that's doing a good job. They're adding value. He's called Alvin Mukabwa. He's the CEO of Generation Kenya. Yes, and we're having a general conversation about tackling the youth unemployment crisis in Kenya. Yes. And yeah, man. You know what, JP?
Yes.
Let me just say a few things as Alvin gets his contact information. Your story, who do you know? You know, as much as it sounds negative, huh?
Yeah.
Me, I have no beef with it. At some point,
It helps.
you gotta know people.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, network
Is your
will
network.
determine your net worth.
Yeah.
Get out there, network, my friend. Let me ask you a funny question. No, not even funny. An interesting question. Who's the most famous Kenyan in your contact list?
Famous
On your
Kenyan.
phone. Famous Kenyan in terms of value.
I'd say Chandaria.
Good stuff. Sasa, you see,
Yeah.
that's your net worth.
Yeah.
Steph, I know she's gonna tell me.
Atatustua bana.
Steph,
They prefer not
apart
to
from
be
the Queen,
Apart from the Queen, who
apart
else?
from the Queen, who else?
I don't go for celebrities. I go for people who have more networks than
Yeah,
I do.
it's true. It's true.
That's what I aim for.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you can give me a business that will give me more income, then
Yes.
yes, you're in my networks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a bunch of those on your phone.
Oh yeah.
Very important. You have to have important people on your contact list, guys.
But also one other important thing,
Yeah.
you also have to have important people on your contact list who can pick up the phone when you call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can fill up my phone with all numbers of all high-profile people, but none of them really add value to me. It's just a screen.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then they look at you, they're like, it's that guy.
So
again."
who is this? Why is he calling?
Yeah.
but
You
for
know
them-
how, Betty, if you want to know okay, if you want to increase the chances of this important person, like say for example, Shandaria, Amarao,
Yeah.
answering his phone when you call,
Right.
you have to add value of some sort in his life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need to, Yani, especially because I'll tell you what, for example, if you're gonna reach out to JP,
Yeah.
Stephanie, and you just Malizad from 4. So instead of saying, oh, yo, JP, me, I'm a fan of you, man, say, I'll pay for SpiceFM, you kill it, I love the music, da da da.
Thank you.
Which is good. I mean, yeah, that's a good story. I like that. It's a good shout out. However, switch that conversation and say, okay, JP, guess what? Me, I'm a gym instructor. And I heard you the other day talking about how you want to get back into the gym. So what if I give you free lessons of, don't even free, at least, okay, maybe for the first
3 weeks.
try out my program.
Yeah.
And then if you decide to pay me, that's cool. But in return, I want to join your network. Not in the sense of you hanging out with me and me hanging out with you, but maybe you can teach me a few things, improve on my skill level,
Yeah.
teach me how to develop a certain product.
Yeah.
That is passionate about, for example.
Public speaking to my clients.
Public speaking, that's a good one. So it's a win-win relationship
Yes.
between you and that protege.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. So
It makes lots of sense.
So if he calls you,
Yeah.
atajua, that's that little man. He probably wants to train me.
Yeah.
I haven't been hitting the
I have
gym
to
for a
take it
while.
seriously.
I have to take this phone call seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's a win-win. You increase the chances of JP answering your phone call. Yeah, as opposed to just saying, yo, Steph, wagwan man, oh yo, that show, da da da. It's me again.
Yeah, there needs to be something to it.
Yeah. It's
People need to
also-
add value to each other.
Yeah, man.
It's also a very good way to increase your networks, because if you want to grow, the first thing that my mentor always taught me is go to the one person you want to have in your network and then do them a favor. When you do them a favor, they sort of owe you one.
Yes.
And then instead of asking them for one, get into their circle.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to grow, because now they are representing you. So when someone says, okay, so, can we trust this person? They'll be like, oh, they came in with that person. They'll be like, oh, okay, you have a reference.
It's true.
And that's how you continue to grow and build yourself.
A reference is very important, Manze.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this dude in Kisumu used to like coming to Adigo to watch the dogs. He would do me a favor and he wouldn't, I would never ask him for anything. He would never ask me for anything like cutting money or whatever. Simply because he used to really like my ish. You know what I mean? Because that place, go on.
Yeah, the institute, yeah.
So he also wanted to come and train. So alikuwa anakuja pale Milimani, washes the dogs, and then I come and train him for free. That was a good relationship. There's also another one just over here at Kileleshwa Academy. He used to kuja and just chill. Sometimes he would, what did he used to do? He used to do my partner, the one that I started that school with, he had issues with his computers. And also, I guess, man in the area sometimes. Because there's a watchy over there who was kind of random. So we used to call this other random guy, and he would just hang out, and sometimes he would act like a watching. So my shout outs to Bonke. So what Bonke did is he used to teach him mobile app development.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he would hang out over there, and he'd be, I'm just chilling under there. I'm like, wait, can't evoke gate. And then after hours, we will train you mobile app. I don't know, like Steph say, just do a boss a favor.
Yeah.
And then you're going to use him as a reference eventually.
Yeah, you could just see that one person who's always going to work, you want to work with them. Just go and ask, can I wash your car? Start off like that.
Yeah, basics.
Then
just
he'll be like,
simple
okay,
things.
what do you want? I want a job.
Yeah. So Alvin.
Yes.
Right.
Before we let you go, what's your contact info? Have you got it?
Yes. You can reach us on 0733 334 399.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and you can also email us at generationkenya@generation.org.
Yeah. You guys keep on doing a good job, man. I can see you're definitely a young guy. You're out here solving our problem.
Yeah.
Also, I learned something from JP today. Don't sell, solve.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Stop selling.
Stop selling.
Do more solving.
I like that. Sasawa, right now it's 28 minutes after 8. We've just been having a conversation with Alvin Mukabwa, like I told you. He's from Generation Kenya. Today we're talking all things tackling the youth unemployment crisis in the 254. Right now, Put You On by Amber Mark featuring Drum. Alafu tukirudi, it's all about CIT, cruising the internet.
94.4 Spice FM.